Thanks, Stephen. Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us here today. As noted, my name is Amanda Left, and I'm the Commissioner of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. Of course, we're so grateful to be hosted here today by the Town of Niagara at this beautiful community center to talk a little bit about our progress and also show some demonstrations of our work. I'm pleased to be joined by Mike Martucci, Regional Administrator for EPA, to continue to show our strong partnership in delivering for Western New Yorkers. And really to start at the beginning, DEC and EPA together launched the Niagara and Erie County Radiological Assessment because we wanted to make sure that we were proactive in understanding whether or not there is human-made radiological materials right here in this region. And really, we wanted to ask ourselves this question proactively. We didn't want to wait another 20 years and discover that something was wrong. Something that we could have prevented if we took initiative to go out to look for this, and that's where we are today. We started hundreds of miles of feet in the air, went 15,000 nautical miles with aerial surveys, then we did ground surveys driving over 1,000 miles, which were roadway surveys specifically, and now we're doing ground screening in some private properties. And that's what we want to talk about here today. At each stage of that process, we've been meticulously narrowing down to understand where we needed to do some further understanding and some further investigation. And I'm really pleased that we've made tremendous progress. In fact, just yesterday, we signed, or rather people signed 48 access forms, and we screened 55 properties. We're continuing to make really great progress in order to understand what's out there and make sure that we're delivering for these communities. And really importantly, we know, of course, that there's always some natural level of this kind of material. This kind of material happens in our daily lives. We're all exposed to radiological material. That's not what we're looking for. What we're looking for is elevated levels. We're looking for concentration of that material. And so today we're going to see some demonstrations, the equipment we're using, so we can educate the public, if you've signed an access form, to understand who might be visiting your home, what that might look like, and make sure that we're getting awareness out there. I also want to make sure people know how they can reach us. So we have an active hotline that is up and running weekdays from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. with people picking up the phone. And that phone number is 518-712-8279. We also can be reached at email at necra@dec.my.gov. And starting on Thursday, we're going to be in person right here. So we're going to have some of our team members that are going to be here to answer questions. And that is going to be from 3 o'clock to 7 p.m. this Thursday, July 30th, Monday, August 3rd, and Monday, August 10th. So if you're a community member, you have questions about whether or not you should sign an access form, or you're trying to understand the process, please feel free to come here. We're happy to answer your questions. Please call our hotline. Please email us. We want to make sure we're as available for the community as possible. We've been knocking on doors. We've been making calls. We've been going to the community, and we want to make sure that there's a place where the community can come to us so that we can continue to make sure that we're delivering for Western New York and continue to make sure that we're proactively out in the field answering people's questions. So with that, I'll turn it over to Regional Administrator Mike Martucci for some words from him. Mike.
Thank you, Commissioner. And as the Commissioner said, I am Mike Martucci. I'm the Regional Administrator for EPA Region 2, which includes the entire state of New York. So in addition to the screening activities that the Commissioner just reviewed, EPA is undertaking soil sample testing as well. This soil sample testing is happening at homes from which we're obtaining screening data. That screening data then is being analyzed and passed along through our process to EPA in cases where we want to do soil sampling. That sampling process has begun, and we're running it concurrently along with the screening activities, the demonstration of which you will see today. So that process is one that involves laboratory testing, several weeks of time that involve those actual soil samples going to laboratories, involving testing that takes a prescribed period of time, with the data coming back to EPA. And that data is going to inform cleanup activities, which will be unique to each and every property. EPA will be undertaking these cleanup activities under our federal authorities, under the removal authorities in the Superfund law, the federal Superfund law. EPA undertakes removal actions like this all across the country at sites with radiological material, much like what we're seeing in some of the homes, and certainly in the homes that have been referred to this agency by DEC. So that process is one that this agency has a lot of familiarity with and is positioned well to undertake. So each one of those cleanups is going to be individualized to the contaminants of concern on an individual property. To be clear, the contamination is not uniform. It is very unique to each and every property, and that's why that sampling is necessary to better understand exactly what material is there. And then, of course, our team working closely to devise a remedy to remove that contamination so that properties can be certified as clean. So those processes on the EPA side are in process. Undoubtedly, you are aware as well that after reviewing screening data, not laboratory testing data, but screening data, a team of folks from the State Environmental Department of Environmental Conservation, EPA, and the Department of Health review that screening data, and determinations were made to make 4 voluntary offers of relocations to families. That process is a process that continues to happen as new data comes in from sites, but currently we remain at 4 voluntary offers made for families. The federal government is working in a process with those families. Those families are at various stages of finding a longer term temporary housing, which is an important step for those who choose to take that. And then, of course, in the interim step, offering immediate solutions, including options like hotels or short-term rentals, with the ultimate goal of working with each individual family, determining their needs, and doing things like property tours and finding solutions that fit on a one-on-one basis. So those activities have been ongoing as well in parallel to all of the things that we have going on the screening side of our operation as we move into the exact characterization of the material, devising cleanup plans, and moving forward toward cleanup. So with that, our next step is we're going to be doing, our experts who are here are going to be doing a demonstration, and then we will return for questions. So maybe I'll turn it to you, Stephen.
That sounds good. So I think let's talk about the logistics of this. So we have equipment over here on the table. I know we have cameras to move if it's easy enough to do so. I think we'll have the visuals, and then Pete and Pat here, the experts, can kind of provide a bit of context on what we're looking at and kind of explain kind of the process. Is that okay? Is that doable?
And just before we break to do that, I just want to introduce these really wonderful people. So we have Pete. Pete's from the EPA. We have Pat. Pat is from DEC, and then we also have one of our wonderful lieutenants. And when people are out in the field, you're going to see them with safety gear on. We also have some of our environmental conservation officers that are going to be in uniform. So as you see folks screening different property, this is what they're going to look like, and we really appreciate them being here today. They've done a really amazing job in helping to lead this effort, and they're going to demonstrate for us some of the equipment. But just want to table set these amazing 3 people that we have here that will show us a demonstration.
Does that sound all right with you guys? Yeah? All right, let's make the move over. Yeah, I think that makes more sense. Need all this, Ron? Yeah,
That way you can actually get around.
yeah, you can.
We're going to find out. Ask the experts. Yeah, I don't know if this equipment going to interfere at all, you guys? It's possible. They're the experts. And listen, and it's important to note that, right? Because there's we know that things like, your granite countertop, things that are in our equipment, all of that have material in it. So it's yes, absolutely. Right. Exactly. Okay.
Speak.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Please.
Good afternoon.
Let's
My
wait
name's
for them to
Pete.
get set
Hold
up.
on one
Sorry.
second.
My
Okay.
fault.
I was just ready right then and there.
I should put your last names
forgot my last name. It's Pete and Pat.
My last name is Pat.
Gentlemen, can we move that orange bag to the other side? We have all our mics set over there.
Understood.
Thank you, sir. The yellow case is fine.
We'll use a yellow case to hold it up.
Do it. Open that. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right. Does this work? Looks good?
Yeah.
All right then. All right, folks.
Are everybody good?
Everybody good?
Nice and loud.
All right.
ahead.
All right. My name is Pete Lyschenko. I'm an on-scene coordinator with the United States Environmental Protection Agency. My colleague to the right here.
My name is Patrick Concannon. I'm a geologist with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation here in our Buffalo office.
Folks, here today we're going to describe the equipment that we're utilizing for these surveys. When a representative from both from DEC or EPA comes onto the property, we're going to be equipped with these very similar units. To my left here, we have a GPS-enabled 22, what we call 2241, with a 3x3 sodium iodide scintillator. What that basically means, it's a gamma detector. It detects gamma radiation. We have it connected via Bluetooth to a GPS device as well as a tablet. What we're doing is that when we go out to these studies, we want to make sure that we document this as appropriately as possible, make sure that we have defendable data. We collect this information utilizing the instrumentation. It feeds up into the data logger, that being the tablet, and then all the GPS information is collected and also sent to the tablet as well, and that information is basically synced up together, so then we can take the information, bring it back in the office and run our analysis. The representative that will be carrying this backpack will walk through a property, walking tight transects, usually probably 3 to 5 feet, basically kind of like mowing the yard. With that, they collect this information, and then that information is brought back to the office. In the office, we'll download the information and plot it out in our geographic information systems and conduct analysis to see if a property warrants further investigation. If a property warrants further investigation, a second visit will be made by field teams utilizing this instrumentation here, which is very similar to this one here, except it measures radiation in a slightly different units, what we refer to as exposures. That information is then collected, spot checked throughout your property, and that information is recorded and then provided to a EPA risk assessor. This information is then evaluated, and a joint decision is made by both, including the EPA, DEC, and the New York State Department of Health, determining whether or not further work is needed on the property. Is any specific questions anybody has? All right, at this point, we're going to go ahead and we're going to suit up, and we're actually going to conduct a demonstration. You got this? As we're doing the walkthrough, for those of you with mobile cameras, you might be able to watch the screen because you'll see in real time the measurements that we are getting.
Thank you. As someone that is carrying this tablet and performing this work, what I'm doing, this data is being uploaded to the GPS in real time. So I'm utilizing both the GPS to guide me on a parcel, as well as to see in the field in real time if we're seeing anything about what we consider to be naturally occurring or background radiation. What do you want? You want us to just move on?
not to be as least intrusive as possible. Hypothetical situation is that we do find something of interest, something we may want to go back to check again. We'll utilize this instrument, which is a 2241 3x3 sodium iodide scintillator. The field teams will come through, so we get random spot measurements within the yard as well as comprehensive any residential structure. To capture this information, we're actually using Esri field map powered by Esri that allows us to actually do real-time mapping out in the field. So we simply enter the information into our cell phone, and we're able to capture that and immediately upload it to our system. That is really what the survey is when we do this.
Does anybody have any specific questions about the demonstration itself?
What's background on your counts per second? What do you consider background?
Usually counts per second, it's usually around 20,000.
20?
Yeah, typically. Depends on the area. So background's very
Per minute.
interesting. Yeah, per minute, sorry. That's per minute.
That's
sorry.
per minute.
Per minute,
So
yes,
2,000 counts per second, roughly? Is that what you're
roughly
saying?
around like 8 or 9. Roughly. So the thing about background is it varies wherever you are at.
Sure.
So I mean, within the state itself, it's great variation. Within the county itself, it's great variation.
Yeah.
So that's something that when we're out in the field, we kind of have to make that field determination. The thing with radioactive surveys, a lot of it's professional judgment as well as working with the numbers. So as you bring up, the background is a good measurement of things, but you have to approach it with a grain of salt, understanding that does have great variation.
How many teams do you have doing this at once? Let's say you have 50 permissions to get onto properties. How many teams do you guys have at most at once?
Currently we're ramped up to about 7 teams. Right now we may increase the number if necessary, but right now we are equipped to be able to handle 7 teams at one time.
How typically long would you spend on some? I know it depends on the size of the backyard, but typically, you just showed us what you do, and I don't know how many, if you walk more, but a typical quarter-acre backyard.
20 minutes, 20, 30 minutes maybe?
And it depends, this is an open area, so a typical parcel, we can do that. But we also take into account any trees, fire pits, backyard areas. We work around that as well. Some of the properties take a little longer. We've also had some very large properties. We may spend upwards of an hour. So we want to get very good data while we're there.
You didn't find anything just right now, right? We got nothing to worry about, do we?
Oh, wait a minute, you can check your feet.
So if we don't have any more questions about the demonstration itself, I think we can move our way back to the podium, or yeah, I think that's the best approach. And then just technical questions. Yeah, absolutely.
Here, make yourself useful. No.
Buddy, you're not lying. Great. Outstanding. Outstanding.
Go behind you. Go in front. Okay, no.
It needed to happen.
I just don't want to cross him up. I got no choice. I'm going to cross you.
Sorry we made you set up right that. We just figured you wanted to see that for questions.
Whoever mic that is, I tried catching it. I really. It's my mic? Oh, well then I'm really glad I
I don't
tried.
think you really needed it, do we? Right?
No, I don't
Steven,
think
just
so,
say no. We don't even need that. Yeah, we don't need
We try to take care of taxpayer dollars, actually. We don't want to break anything.
All right, everyone. So I'm glad we were able to see a quick overview of the equipment itself and of the demonstration by Pete and Pat. If you have any other questions for the commissioner or for the EPA regional administrator, please let us know. Please, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and your outlet, that'd be really helpful.
Dave McKinley. I work for Channel 2 here in town. It's just a TV station. So you did this 15,000 nautical mile survey over the last, I remember covering it when you did it a couple of years ago. So when do you release the rest of it? When do you tell others across western New York, however hundreds or thousands there might be, that they have a problem?
Yeah, well, first again, the aerial survey started in 2023. It took about a year and a half.
Yeah, I remember.
And thank you for covering it. And then we moved to the roadway surveys, and now in the ground surveys. And actually, through that process is where we identified locations of interest, which is where we are today.
Have they all been identified then, all these locations of interest? We're not going to be doing this down in Hamburg or Orchard Park or someplace like that?
So I think the answer is we really want to follow the data and the science. And we're being really meticulous about what we're seeing with the screening data and ensuring that we're utilizing that to help us continue where to go.
Wow.
And fortunately, I will say that as we move forward, we're finding a lot of properties that need no further action. And we're finding properties where we know we need to do that follow-up.
Well, have you found all the properties where you know you need to do follow-up?
Well, that's actually what the screening process is. So that is why we're doing the screening process now, because not every, again, we are really successful in our ability to ramp up and to screen. We got to 55 properties yesterday. And when we do that screening, we're able to do that then evaluation with our team of experts to understand whether or not there's any follow-up needed or not.
Okay.
And as soon as we identify an area that's needed for follow-up, we get back in touch with that property owner to do that next screening.
Maybe I'm asking the question in the wrong way. You've done what you've done so far. You've zeroed in on some properties in the town of Niagara, New York. What about the rest? Do we know if there's others, or at this point are you telling me these are the only ones we found where we need to do, where we haven't gone already, done our ground survey with our special truck or whatever, and then identified properties? How many more are we going to find?
I think with respect, and Pete and Pat can help answer this question as well from a technical perspective, but I think generally for the locations of interest that we're focused on right now, we're focused on 4 locations of interest for thorium. And that is where we are focused today. We expect that, it's possible that the universe can change, but I will say, because a lot of people are raising their hands, we're screening in a lot more places than just where the data is showing us. But what is, I will say, important about this effort is that the methodology is also showing us that generally we're finding it where our sort of our high level, our ground level, and now our survey data is telling us we would have. So we're meticulously going from that higher level data down to narrow where this is. And I don't want to prejudge the science, but I will say that we're focused on these areas today and making sure that we're being as expansive and productive as we can be. But Pete and Pat, do you want to add to that at all? We don't always have the benefit of the lead, so I want to give them the chance.
So yeah, I think one of the things that we need to understand is that following the data from the aerial survey and the roadway survey data, the roadway survey in and of itself was a significant effort just to cover the portions of Niagara County that we did. And as we were initially prioritizing that, we would follow up on what we thought of as areas of high importance, if you will. And that's led us to where we were with this work that we're doing right now.
So there aren't any others besides the ones you've identified?
I'm sorry,
He's asking how many. So let me take this, guys. So the areas of interest are actually locations of interest is the term that we're using. Could be multiple properties. So for instance, if a roadway survey saw something elevated, it could be a granite roadway, right? It could be something that just was sort of there that made a pop, or it could be something that needs further investigation. So using that data, we were able to identify locations of interest, and that might include multiple properties that are adjacent to whatever that elevated reading was. So the properties themselves is a different number than the locations of interest. Right now we're in 4 different locations of interest.
Have you finished the ground survey with a truck yet or not?
We've ridden about 1,000 miles with the ground surveys. I think for the Niagara County portion, we're largely very well underway. But again, I want to say that we're doing this meticulously and intentionally, so we're going to continue to make sure that if data supports us going to additional places, we're going to do that.
I've seen 4 maps, but they were just talking about the GPS maps. They have red dots. These homeowners are getting these maps with 0 explanation of what they do. That's a transparency issue, do you think? And why are you doing that? Why would you give someone a map with red dots, green dots, whatever dots, and not tell them what it means? Because they're passing this information out and no one knows what they're looking at.
Sure.
Yeah, Dan, I'm happy to answer on that. So, first I'll speak to the broader initiative, and then I'll speak as much as I can to the specific issue that you're talking about. So, more broadly, communicating back with folks their property data is a top priority of ours. We've spent the last week getting out and collecting a ton of data once we got those property access forms that gave us the very access that we needed to get onto properties, which was an important step. We have a robust plan in terms of communicating with individual property owners and residents about data on their property, right? The first step of that plan is if their property has been cleared for no further action, they're going to receive an email from us that's going to say just that. But we do understand that there is a a whole host of data that we want to sit down with that's property specific, that takes time. And right now, because we've prioritized getting more screenings done, what that's going to mean is it's going to take time for our teams to develop these maps to which you're referring. Each property owner and each resident will receive a copy of their exact data along with a whole host of supporting materials to explain that data. We're going to make available experts to meet with them individually to walk through exactly what that data means, because most folks are not well versed in the specifics around radiation. So those are all processes that are going to happen. Now, in cases where we've offered voluntary relocation to folks, those conversations have been happening. There is no situation in which we hand someone a map with no explanation and no details. We make offers to meet with people. Our experts have met for hours with folks, hours. And I would encourage you to ask questions about that. I would encourage you to ask questions about that, Dan, because we have made ourselves available for hours to folks, and we will continue to do that. If people have exact questions, they can call our hotline. We have health physicists, we have environmental specialists, medical doctors from DOH, all of whom have been on calls to address these very issues.
So if they call that number, they might get some answers, explanations?
So if folks call that number, again, a very small limited number of folks right now have the maps to which you're referring. And again, that is because our focus has been focusing on putting priority to property scannings. Every single person will receive a map. Every single person will have an opportunity to go through the data on their map. But there's no situation in which we have emailed someone data about their property and not availed ourselves to a conversation with that person to discuss what that means with relevant folks from our team. Those conversations have been ongoing. And as we move forward, most importantly, those conversations are going to happen on an individual property by property basis. Certainly, I'm sure you can all understand that it will take us time to print these maps, mail these maps to folks so that they have an opportunity to review their individual property data. So prioritizing will be to notify folks on a rolling basis as data comes in and our team analyzes it if their property has been removed from a screening list, and then subsequent to that, receiving backup information in an individual map, opportunities to have conversations with experts about the data on that specific map.
The neighborhood that were the 4 homes and all that relocation, are you doing anything else other than radiation testing? Are you doing chemical testing at all? Due to the fact that they are very close, less than a mile away from numerous and active hazardous waste sites, and as far as I recall, looking at the data, class 2. So it does raise some questions. Gill Creek is a problem, always has been. Are you just doing radiation? Are you collecting soil and doing chemical testing?
So this screening activity that we're undertaking is exclusive to our radiological survey. I think these guys can speak more technically, which I'll turn the mic over to them, about the types of tests that we're conducting. And
Yes, thank you. So yes, okay, the first priority, the driver of this project has been the radiological component, okay? Now we're moving past that now, is understanding what's there at the location. Obviously, this radiation just didn't fall the sky. So we are going through taking extensive efforts to actually collect soil samples and run it for a whole host of parameters that we normally do on any type of removal project, including TAL metals, pesticides, mercury. I mean, we're running for everything. So we want to see what's there. Yes.
for the soil sampling,
For soil
not
samples.
for the screening.
Yeah, for the
I'm
soil
sorry, I thought
sampling.
it was-
So
yeah.
when we get to the point that we're collecting soil samples, we're undertaking a significant effort on that property.
You stressed in prior comments that decision of whether to move or not is voluntary. The decision of whether to let you onto the property is voluntary, and what to do after you're going to force. But at what point, if any, if you find something, does the government come in and tell a homeowner with a high level, you've got to go?
Sure. So I can speak to the relocation question. So what happens is we're basing our recommendations and our conversations with homeowners relative to relocation on screening data, right? Because we talked about soil sampling. Soil sampling takes an extended period of time, right? So the screening data is what is driving that initial decision. The decision is made by a team of folks. Who sits on this team? Are representatives from Department of Health, medical doctors, EPA health physicists, and DEC environmental specialists.
So it's possible you could boot them out whether they want to leave or not.
No. So in this particular case, all of our relocations have been voluntary. There's no mandatory relocations that are part of.
Will there ever be, if you find something in a property that is high enough to say get out?
Well, so look, we're not, again, I want to be super clear. We're not removing folks from their home. We're conducting these screenings. As you are well aware, folks who live in these homes in many cases have been there many years or decades, right? So these are folks who have been in these properties for a very long time. So our goal really is to take the screening data that we obtain from the property, turn it around as quickly as possible. In cases where we need to do additional testing like you saw, we conduct that testing, and then we're having individual conversations based on what we find on each individual property.
What kind of
And
rights?
I think it might be important to also emphasize everybody that these are all unique situations, right? You know, we're screening different properties in order to be proactive to understand if something is there. In many instances, there isn't anything there. Where there is something there, it's a very unique circumstance, with respect to where it is, what it is, and what the actual risk exposure is for that resident. So that's why it's difficult to sort of answer that question of what point would you get to, because we want to make sure that we're thinking about this in what it is, right? Which is a very unique situation for every property that we look at, to understand then what's the best next step in order to move forward with mitigation and help support that resident.
What kind of rights do people sign away when they allow you onto their property?
So nobody is signing away any rights. What people are signing are access forms, which essentially just allows people to come in and access their property so that they can perform the screening that you all just saw demonstrated here today.
Can you confirm thorium-232 is one of the isotopes that has been found in at least one property, maybe more?
So I know what we're looking at here, and what our sort of focus on with these areas of concerns is we're seeing thorium at elevated levels. What we really need to do, though, is we need to do that soil sampling, Dan, because that's going to help us understand what's there specifically, and it's also going to help us understand where it came from, right? This was placed here. This is not naturally reoccurring, and we want to understand how it was placed there and potentially seek a responsible party.
I want to make sure, did you say yes to thorium? It was too, I didn't hear.
I said that is some of what we are seeing elevated levels, but we need the soil samples to really confirm what's there.
Yes, I want to open it up. If anybody else has any other questions, we got another minute left.
Can you kind of go over like the line between just doing the screening versus the soil sampling? And I don't know if that's best for you or them, but at what point is there a reading where you have to reach that next step?
Sure. Go ahead, Pete.
So as we're evaluating, let's step back for a second. As we're evaluating the data, we're getting the screening data in, we look at it, and then we first know if it comes back as highly elevated, then at that point we would do some soil sampling. If we're looking at data and we start screening and we're somewhere maybe in that warm zone, it's getting a little hot, we're going to step back and we're going to figure out what's going on there and to do more intensive effort for the screening. And we'll bring out some additional instrumentation, see if we can dial that in. When we get to the point of doing intrusive activities, we want to make sure we're doing it for the right properties, and we're not trying to waste anybody's time or disrupt the homeowner's home, because once again, intrusive activities does disturb the soils, it does disturb their property, it disturbs their lives, and that's something we don't want to do unless we absolutely feel it's necessary.
And how does that highly elevated number compare to like a normal yard with zero radiation in it?
We're talking many times higher.
And I do want to be clear, though. Actually, why don't you do this? Will you please explain sort of natural radiation, right? How much
Yeah.
would you usually see?
All right, so we mentioned earlier, Dan had brought up the idea of background. That term is it's a little fuzzy. So everything here, the pavers I'm standing on right now, granite curbing, well, we don't have granite curbing here, but we do have some brick facade that's inside this building. Everything has radiation, all right? Even like your granite countertop. What we're doing, we're testing is we're trying to see whether or not something is naturally occurring or if it's elevated from that. When we do our scans, we're walking down through it, we're looking for fluctuations in our readings to see if there's something there that's not supposed to be there. It's much like looking at a light bulb. Does the light bulb get brighter? That's what we're essentially looking at. Now, where is that fluctuations? That's where the roadway data itself, when we're driving the roadways, you're asking about whether or not it's completed. Our efforts was basically looking for those slight undulations or fluctuations in the data sets themselves.
So that just leads me to why not release the full radiological survey
this is
the
the
rest
reason
of
why.
New York can look and see whether they have a hot spot in their yard.
Well, this is the reason why, is that when we were going through the data sets, including the aerial data sets and the roadway data sets, if there was a slight undulation, we went ahead, we want to take a closer look. So we went ahead and put a point there for us to take a closer look at. We don't know if there's something there or if it's naturally occurring or it's related to a man-made infrastructure. So we don't want to impact anybody's property values negatively or give somebody negative stigmatism about their property.
So people won't panic?
Well, we're trying to minimize it. We're going to release the data. That's going to happen. We want to be able to explain it though properly. We don't want people to be worried. We don't want people to be upset. We don't want people to be financially hurt by the process of doing it. We're here to try to help the people. We're trying to make sure it's, try to take care of something that should have been done a long time ago. This is the process is for us to vet the data properly. It will be released. It just takes us a little time.
I understand not identifying private property, but you've mentioned public properties. Why aren't you identifying these public properties?
And once again, just as I explained, is we need time to vet the data first before we can do that.
And guys, this isn't gonna be the last time. We're not going anywhere. So I think we're done with, is there one final question? And
Just
we're gonna call.
spelling on the last
Yeah.
name?
Oh, yeah.
Pete?
Okay.
Please spell your name.
It's L-I-S-I-C-H-E-N-K-O.
And say it for me one more time.
Lysachenko.
Lysychenko?
Yes.
And,
What was your title with the EPA?
I'm an on-scene coordinator.
and Patrick?
Yeah, it's C-O-N-C-A-N-N-O-N.
C-O-N.
C-A-N-N-O-N.
Thanks, guys.
Guys,
Thank you so much, everybody, for
out. This is
coming.
a great
Really
opportunity for
appreciate
everyone.
it.
Say it for me there.
Thank you.
Kincannon. Pat Kincannon.
Kincannon?
Yep,
Kincannon.
you got it.